There is a type of person who doesn't just feel more. They see more. Not in an obvious way, not something you can easily explain, but a quiet depth in how they experience people and the world. They don't just react to what is said. They sense what is hidden beneath it. They don't just notice behavior, they recognize patterns behind it. And over time, this creates a strange shift. Because the deeper their awareness becomes, the harder it is to exist in a world that mostly operates on the surface. This is what many describe as a Sophia empath. Not simply someone emotional or sensitive, but someone whose awareness has moved into a different level of perception. The first sign is that you read what isn't being said. Conversations feel layered to you. Words are just the surface, but your attention goes to tone, pauses, inconsistencies, the subtle shifts in energy. You can sense when someone is hiding something, when they are unsure, when they are trying to present a version of themselves that doesn't fully match what they feel inside. And this isn't something you consciously try to do. It happens automatically, sometimes so clearly that it becomes difficult to ignore. The second sign is that you feel deeply, but you are learning not to absorb everything. Earlier in your life, you may have taken on other people's emotions without realizing it. Their stress became your stress, their pain became your weight. But something has changed. You still feel, maybe even more than before, but there is a growing boundary. You can witness emotions without fully merging with them. And that shift is not natural for most people. It is developed through experience, often through pain. The second sign is that you feel deeply, but you are learning not to absorb everything. Earlier in your life, you may have taken on other people's emotions without realizing it. Their stress became your stress, their pain became your weight. But something has changed. You still feel, maybe even more than before, but there is a growing boundary. You can witness emotions without fully merging with them. And that shift is not natural for most people. It is developed through experience, often through pain. The third sign is that you are drawn to truth, even when it's uncomfortable. You don't feel satisfied with easy answers or comforting illusions. If something feels off, you question it. If something doesn't align, you keep looking deeper. And this can make life more difficult, because truth is rarely simple. It often requires you to face things about yourself and others that are not easy to accept. But once you start seeing in this way, you cannot go back to pretending. The fourth sign is that your circle becomes smaller. Not because you dislike people, but because you no longer connect the same way. Surface-level interaction feels draining. Repetitive conversations feel empty. You begin to value depth over quantity. And while this can bring a sense of loneliness at times, it also creates space for something more real. You start to prefer a few genuine connections over many shallow ones. The fifth sign is that you recognize patterns in relationships very quickly. You don't need years to understand someone's dynamics. Within a short time, you can sense their fears, their defenses, their habits. You can see how they might behave in certain situations before it even happens. And while this clarity can protect you, it also creates a challenge. Because once you see the pattern, it becomes difficult to ignore it. You either accept it consciously or you step away. The sixth sign is that you go through periods of isolation that feel necessary, not forced. There are times when you naturally withdraw, not out of avoidance, but because you need space to process what you experience. Your mind and emotions take in more than average, and without time to integrate it, everything becomes overwhelming. So you step back. You spend time alone. And in that space, something reorganizes inside you. The seventh sign is that you are becoming more calm, but also more distant. Not cold, not disconnected, but less reactive. Things that once triggered you don't have the same effect. You pause more. You observe more. You respond instead of reacting. And to others, this can look like you've changed. Like you've become harder to read, harder to reach. But internally, it feels like stability. Like you are no longer pulled in every direction by what you feel. And this is where the paradox appears. You understand people more than ever, yet you feel less connected to most of them. You care deeply, but you cannot always engage. You see clearly, but that clarity creates distance. And learning how to live with that is part of the path. Because being a Sophia empath is not about having a label. It is about carrying a level of awareness that changes how you move through life. It is about learning when to engage and when to step back, when to feel and when to create space, when to speak and when to stay silent. It is also about accepting that not everyone will understand this way of seeing. And that's not something to fix, it's something to recognize, because your role is not to force awareness onto others. It is to manage your own. Over time, you begin to find balance. You learn how to stay open without becoming overwhelmed, how to remain aware without becoming detached, how to connect without losing yourself in the process. And that balance is what turns sensitivity into strength. So if you recognize yourself in these signs, understand this. You are not just feeling more, you are perceiving differently. And with that comes both clarity and responsibility. Because seeing deeply is not the end. It is the beginning of learning how to live with what you see.